Welcome to Millennial Made. My name is Rod, and I have a very special guest, Jason Tartick here, who is another Dear Media family member. Podcast. What's the name of your podcast, Jason?
Trading Secrets.
Trading Secrets.
Yeah.
And what do you talk about on the podcast?
So the main preface of what we talk about is all money, because I think we live in this world where it's uncomfortable to talk about money. Like right now, if I was like, what do you make on this podcast? You'd feel uncomfortable, right? And I think that's because we've lived in this system that pressures us not to disclose and talk about money. And the reason we don't talk about it is, in my opinion, because the higher ups will have less leverage when they're negotiating. So I'm trying to completely shatter that wall. We have reality stars on, we have big business tycoons, we have actors, actresses, and all we do is talk about money earned and money lost and the stories behind them, because behind those stories, we can all learn so much as we work on personal finance and career navigation. So those are like the main things. And we've had A-Rod on, we've had Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, Gary V, had some reality. We just had your good friend Corporate Natalie, that podcast came out. It's been such a fun thing and part of the Dear Media family, man. We're family now, man.
I love it. No, I think it's so interesting too, because I do a lot of corporate content, like Corporate Natalie. That's my whole niche is, the corporate world. And sometimes I'll do like a advice day or something like that. And the biggest thing is, how do I negotiate more for my salary, or how do I know if I'm making enough money?
Yeah.
And like you said, it's something that employers, because at the end of the day, employers want to walk away with as much money as possible. So they're going to do anything in their power to, keep that. But I always say go up. No one's going to like pull a job offer because you ask for more money. At the end of the day, they'll just say they can't do it. And then it's up to you to decide if you want to do it or not.
For sure. And if they pull that job offer, that's like a very telling, right? Is that where you want to be aligned? And one of the easiest ways to like have to like start negotiating for yourself is literally just talk to your friend group. Hey, what do you guys make? Then start talking internally at, like you and I should be talking about, how'd you negotiate your Dear Media contract?
Yeah.
Now everyone says, oh my God, it's so uncomfortable. You can't. But like, we should be looking out for everyone, the good of the organization and the good of the people that we want to work with. And doing that is going to allow all of us to be in better positions.
Wow. I think it's so interesting too, because as millennials, we were taught that we're disposable almost in our career.
Totally.
Where they're like, well, I can just fire you and find someone new.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I think we're realizing more and more that we're not as disposable as people think. And if we had these open and honest conversations, companies would have to tighten up and, start value. Because on the opposite side too, it's like, I don't talk as much about finance, but mental health too. Like the same thing is huge. Like, people should be more open about like how their companies treat their employees with their mental health. At the end of the day,
100%.
like, that'll create harder workers and create, people to feel more comfortable in their workspace.
So and it's a great little segue. So I just launched a book. It's called The Restart Roadmap. In the first chapter, I tell a story that I never told anybody in my whole life. And it's about when I was in the corporate world. I was trying so hard to be the talking suit, to be what my boss and my boss's boss and my peers perceived as like a successful banker. So I was trying so hard to live within this image. I kept putting more pressure on myself to like be and act like something I wasn't. And I was in the middle of a meeting and I excused myself to go to the bathroom, and I closed the door, and I'm in a big executive's bathroom, close the door, and I hit the deck. I totally pass out. So I'm like sitting in a pool of sweat, looking as like white as a ghost, hoping that when I went back in, I didn't look as bloodless as I felt, throwing water on myself. I get through the meeting. I don't think anyone completely knew what happened, but I got home, and the first thing I'm thinking, instead of how do I start listening to my body and myself, instead of doing that, I'm literally thinking, how do I camouflage it? I can't show this weakness. I can't show that I'm like mentally having this anxiety. If I do that, that's perceived as unsuccessful. So I went to a psychiatrist, and I got Xanax and beta blockers. But then I was thinking, well, I can't be popping pills in the middle of a meeting if I'm a panic attack. So I started hiding them in Altoid cases.
Oh my God.
And every day I would bring them to work. But then what happened is people would hear it and they would want a mint, and they or make too much noise. And I'm like, well, how can I camouflage then? And it got so crazy. I took Listerine strips, Listerine strips.
God. Yeah.
Took them all out, and I would put in my Xanax and my beta blockers, and I'd put them in my coat. And I was doing so much to camouflage my mental situational anxiety within my career, because to your point, in most organizations, not all, but in most, they don't have time for that. If you're perceived as having panic attacks, you're weak. You can't be in front of a client. I can't you do that? Yeah. And so I just compartmentalize my emotions and tried to, as far as I could, disconnect my emotions with my behaviors, which is so unhealthy.
It's so unhealthy. It's living in Chicago. It's a lot of startups in Chicago, which we're talking a little about, big finance city too. But startups have this mentality of like, you are basically part owner of the company, so you need to be here on the ground floor working day in, day out.
Yeah.
And I was burned to the ground. I was doing things that I never thought I would have to do on the job, and it was pushed to some ethical limits too, just to please people, because that's what I was taught to do. And then you find out you are, once you're out at the door, people, most companies could care less about you.
No,
right?
you're a free agent.
So I think what I found out too is when I went to a company, and I was in sales for 10 years, when I went to a company that was just a 9 to 5, that I closed my laptop at 5 o'clock. I didn't hear from anyone on Slack, or that was the healthiest I ever felt. And I was making just as much money. Yeah. I'm like it was just, when you value yourself first, I feel like that's what's going to create a more positive work environment for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I like the point you brought up though. I think people need to be as loyal to their employers as their employers are to them.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that we are all free agents, right? We're not, and I talk about this in the book too. We're not LeBron James. We're not Serena. We don't have these contracts locked in. So what are we doing to kind of like protect ourselves and take care of ourselves? And then how are we managing our finances? Just make sure, they want to pull the plug or pull the rug right under you. Are you prepared? And that also, so I went on the show. It's hilarious. This memo I put together to get approval from my boss to go on the show is hilarious. And so it was like a hot piece of paper. It went from his hand, so the regional's hand, to this hand, ended up at the president of the bank.
Oh, you're talking about the Bachelor?
The memo to go on the Bachelor.
Oh,
while I was working at the bank.
Yeah.
And the president of the bank's like, sure, the kid's been good here. I'll let him go. And then the HR executive storms into his office like, do you know what you just approved? This is a story that was told to me by my manager. Do you know what you just approved? And he's like, yeah, I'll be fine, But I went on the show, got back from the show, went right back to work. And then it was about a year later so Caitlin's podcast, you've been on it, Off the Vine. She's got these confessions, right? And so she tells a confession. You'll get a kick out of this.
Mine was how I got drunk in the middle of a work day.
That was yours? Yeah. Oh, sweet. So you might have gotten in trouble if you were still working. So
you were still working at the company.
Working at the company. And she tells a confession about the first time we hook up. We're fully clothed. We dry hump and she orgasms. So like that's her funny confession. People are laughing, right?
Yeah.
Well, that hits like all these headlines and stuff. And like people are blah, blah, blah. My boss calls me. He's like, hey, have you Googled yourself today? And I was like, no, it's not what I do when I wake up. Like, no, sure haven't. And he's like, why don't you Google yourself and call me back? So I Googled myself.
And call me back.
Call me back, right? Call him back. I was like, okay, what do you want me to do? I didn't say anything. What's the best didn't come out of my mouth? Yeah. And he literally says, they're expecting you to come in today and resign. I was like, well, I'm not resigning. I've worked for this company for 10 years. I've had 7 promotions, every single annual review, which I have paper, I've met or exceeded expectations. And these are like words that didn't even come out of my mouth. And I was pretty much putting this ultimatum, like no podcasting, no social media, no side hustle without the bank's approval.
What?
Or you got to go restart yourself outside the company. And let's just have let's have cordial exit. And so what I did was just that I restarted myself outside the company.
Yeah, you have a book.
Created a company called Restart to help people do it the same way.
There you go. Oh, that's okay. So you have a company to help people do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I think we unfortunately live in an unequitable economy right now, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like really, you need to work, right? Capitalism and all that, and in order to survive. But a lot of people, I think, are seeing that they value their mental health more than their company does, or that it's being pushed to limits where they're becoming unwell. Right. I remember one job I was in, that was the first time I faced depression, which is because I was like chasing something that I knew I never would get, but it was like told that I should still chase it. So that's interesting that you have a company for people who might want to, kind of pursue their own thing and outside of their current 9 to 5.
Totally. It's really focused on refining your career, like writing your own story as opposed to be it written for you, and personal finance. So those 3 big pillars. And it's been a really cool journey, and like to see the impact. Like we have a newsletter, networking, we have all this stuff. Just if you have any interest, go follow Restart and you'll figure out what we got going on. I don't need to do a whole pitch, but the idea is that we're making an impact on right now 1 million eyeballs a week. And so when we get the letters in that are like, hey, with your help and your guidance, we started our business, or I finally pursued the industry I wanted to pursue, or I'm finally doing this, or I finally got rid of my credit card debt. Like I've never had career satisfaction like I have when I hear these stories.
Wow.
It's just the best.
Wow.
So it's been
Wow.
a wild ride.
Cool.
Wild
Yeah.
ride. Yeah.
And you got out of that other situation. Because again, if they, they didn't value you enough, if it's something that, you had no control of.
Well, it's just like one of these things, like that's the thing with, your company, you dedicate so much to it and I worry about it so much. I mean, I'm doing so much as camouflaging panic attacks so I can still exceed expectations or at least be perceived in the eyes of others as successful. And one mishap, one wrong turn that didn't even come out of my mouth and you could be gone like that. And so I think it's so, like, think about how many people go their whole lives without really listening, like dropping into their authentic self.
Yeah.
Like, because I think we live in this system where it's really tough to do if you want to find success, however you define that. And so you can live such a long life under someone else's rules and world, or you can like really drop into who you are and it changes everything. It changes the way you look at things. It changes your life. It changes your friendships, your network. And so, so many people go through their whole entire lives without ever doing that. And I remember I had a CFO. He was retiring. He was like 66. He's retiring. I was working with, and I was so excited for him. Like, and especially because I was like miserable at my job. But I'm like, dude, you did it. You made it. Like, this is amazing. Congratulations. I brought a bottle of champagne. And he looked down on the ground and started shaking his head. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, I'm not looking forward to retiring. I'm like, what do you have your whole life. You could do anything now. And he's like, this is me. This is all I have. This is my life. And he was literally starting to be like somewhat depressed about the fact that his chair, his title, his name tag was really all he had to speak for anymore.
Yeah.
And to me, that is like one of the saddest things. That was one of the saddest memories.
For sure. And it's like, it's just the grind, that like these companies expect you to be with them for 10 plus years and they get offended if you find something better. But I think the most healthy work environments I find are people who, want to just see you succeed and just be happy and whatever. Because then if not, these stigmas are created where you're just somewhere forever and then you don't know anything else outside that. And I've been there where I've lost, relationships with family members because I was working so hard. And just like, this is what I have to do.
Sure.
This is what we're told to do. But that's so interesting. So you brought it up. You were on The Bachelor.
Yep.
Yeah. So what, and I'm sure you've answered this 1.5 million times, but what was like the first introduction you had to the show?
So the first introduction I had to the show, my mom was a big fan of it.
Oh, really?
So I remember in 2002, I remember this was like the first episode I watched was when it was like Ryan's bachelor party and Trista and Ryan, they got together and they like aired this bachelor party. And like I think there were like girls there or something. He like didn't want to be there so bad that he left and went to go run and find Trista. And that like that memory of like our shitty TV and like 2002 TV.
Oh my god!
Like watching that.
It's like it was like a big screen, but it was like so massively wide.
Yeah, it was like a boulder.
Yeah, you can't move it.
Right,
you need to have movers.
Exactly. But I wasn't that like into it. I had a roommate. My mom's always been into it. I had a roommate in after college that loved it. And so like here and there we would watch it with him, but I wasn't just like here, like whatever. When I told my mom that I was being interviewed, and then when I told my mom I was going to do it, she had a little response like, "Oh no, you're not. You're not. This is my thing. I have my thing. You stay away." And ironically enough, it's 4 years later, and like we're in the epicenter of it. It's the finale. She's calling me, "You got any gossip? You know what happened? Spoilers." So
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about it with mental health. What did you do through the show to stay grounded?
Oh,
I feel like there's a lot, that you would have to do to.
I mean,
you have each other, I guess.
This could be the big podcast. I mean, we could talk hours about this, so I'll make it as concise as I can. Sure. But think about this, right? No TV, no phone, no internet, no music, no friends.
For 3 months?
No family, 3 months.
Yeah.
So you're somewhat sleep deprived. So
there's times where you stay up till sunrise.
There's times for sure. Like the first night was a battle. They told you to be ready by like 5 p.m. So you're really ready by like 2 p.m. Ready by 2 p.m. in the same suit. It's 5 p.m. They don't call you. I don't get out there till 7:30. Then you get to the mansion at 8:30. And the rose ceremony wasn't until 8 in the morning. So it was this wild thing of like, I remember when I got there, I was nervous a little bit. So I would have a few drinks. And then like, I was like, wait, I'm getting tired. So it'd be like,
I get
drinks,
so tired after
coffee,
one drink.
water,
Oh my
drinks, coffee, water, drink. It was this wild.
Oh my God.
But 3 months, no. So like,
you didn't have your Listerine pack
crazy
with Xanax either.
Oh no, I didn't have that because they have. That would have been great. I mean, that would have been nice, but they have a nurse there,
Yeah.
so they monitor everything.
Yeah.
No, but it was a really. If someone is listening to this and you want to do a little experiment for yourself, do that for 24 hours. It's almost impossible these days, but do it for 24 hours, and the way your brain starts moving a little bit and connecting with yourself is crazy. And after 3 months, it was a full game of Survivor for the good and bad. But you're so in your brain with everything. And the only way to answer your question that I could actually stay grounded was I would leave. I'd like go in the back of the mansion. There's like a little yard there. Try and get away where there weren't cameras and just think with a pad of paper and pen. And just like, because you're constantly being interrupted. So only time I could get my thoughts into reality. Mm-hmm. And it was tough. It was a long process. Tough one.
Yeah, because I watch it, and I, again, am pretty new to the show, but I think Katie's season, they had Nick come on and do like a mental health roundtable with the guys. Yeah. And like, I think that's really interesting because my stigma before was just that it was like this, like everyone was just like macho guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's, I guess, who they were targeting at the time, but it was really cool to see everyone goes through different experiences.
Yeah.
You know, that they were all pretty open about their mental health on national television.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's amazing.
Which is really important.
Very important.
What is something people would be surprised to know about filming the show or the franchise?
There's like a million things. So a few things.
Yeah.
In the mansion, it's not what it seems. It's a little disheveled in there.
Yeah, well, I bet.
And when in the room I was in, there was so I'm gonna do the math real quick. We can edit this out. We had 12 bunk beds in a room that was maybe 2 of this size, maybe. So like very, very small, 12 guys. There was, insane snoring. But the one thing is they have to film. And the crew has union, and they're there to make a TV show. And the lights, I was on the top bunk, the lights go on and off at a certain time, and they don't go, and they're fucking bright, and they don't go off until like wee hours late. Like it was like 3, 4, and at 7, 8, boom, you're up. So I started to think about it after, not only, and I don't think it's like intentional, we're going to mess with your sleep, but not only is it a stressful environment, but you're also not sleeping well.
Which adds extra layer of emotions too.
The emotions, and you could start to see, it was literally like watching, you could start to see day after day, week after week, where the people were cracking. Like, and you could and you could hear them talk, and you could hear it, and it was very wild to watch that. Some of those inner working mechanics of even just them controlling the sleep was fascinating. The other one is, we're in Final Fantasy suites now, which is very relevant to the discussion. They're oftentimes the sequence of when people go to the fantasy suite isn't when it actually happened.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So I was the first one to film.
Because that's the whole thing is like who goes first.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And I know I was the first to film.
Because you were top 3.
Because I was in the 3, the top 3. I always say, Caitlin and I joke around, we got bronze medals. But
she in top 3 as well?
She was in top 3.
Oh, look at that.
She came in third.
Now you guys are both
golds. Yeah, right. Sharing her bronze. She's got like 18 golds. Yeah. I'm still sitting on my bronze.
And a trophy. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I need a medal of something.
I'll make you one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you played in the game medal, like one of those.
I want to be on the show that bad.
Yeah. But it was so mine, I got the rose the night to go to the hometown suite or hometowns. We went to hometowns the next day. My hometown was aired 3rd, right? And then for fantasy suites, I went the first day, and I had to wait a week until I could go back and like say my goodbyes to her. So I know my fantasy suite night was, I didn't go to the fantasy suite. I got dumped at dinner. I know that was night 1, and then I got but it aired at 3. So the sequence of when you see it isn't always the sequence of when it happened during filming.
Interesting.
And the last thing I'll say is that you really, the amount of time in total you get with the Bachelorette over the course of the 3 months is so limited.
I saw Katie today talk about the person she ended up with is like 24 hours. Like if you put the math together,
it's probably a little more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, she would know better than I would, but I would think it's like based on my timeline, I would think it's like a little more than that. But yeah, that's, you know, it's tight.
Oh my God.
It's tight.
Crazy. So I want to dive into some nostalgia type questions.
Let's do it.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
I laughed because it was the pink Power Ranger.
Oh,
you remember Kimberly was her name?
Yeah.
Oh, what a babe.
Yeah.
Kimberly was my first crush. And then I would say like my first like poster ever was the Britney Spears. Remember the Britney Spears? It was the first CD and it was the schoolgirl one.
Baby One More Time.
Baby One More Time. And I did remember like taking out the CD and like putting it on my wall.
Because CDs back then, sometimes they had posters, like the CD
was
a poster.
It was a poster. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God.
Special.
I remember. Posters were such a big thing for us.
Such a big
Gen Z
thing.
will never know.
Yeah.
And Caitlin loves Britney, right?
Caitlin loves Britney.
Yeah.
Caitlin loves Britney.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. It was awesome.
That's great. Yeah. I feel like that pink Power Ranger was awakening for a lot of people. I feel like I've heard that a lot. I think
she was it for me.
The girl, like the pink Power Ranger, and then a lot of people have had a crush. A lot of girls I've seen talk about the Black Power Ranger.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was.
She was. I mean, all the Power Rangers were hot. The Black Power Ranger was hot. The big Power Ranger was hot.
I love it.
I mean, the dudes are studs too.
Yeah.
The Green Power Ranger, Tommy. He was. I remember like looking up to him, like, oh, I want to be like him when I'm older. Tommy's the man.
I think the worst part about that, looking back now, and just knowing how production works, you know, as any adult would know, like they were not in those suits.
Oh yeah, I know. It's so disappointing.
I know. You look at them like, oh yeah, and they're like they couldn't do a backflip. Yeah.
I remember, like, you ever have like a dream as a kid that you never forget? I remember when I literally was dreaming. I went to bed and I'm dreaming, and I was one of the Power Rangers, and I got asked to be with them, and they added an additional one. And when I was probably like 8. I got up. I was so pissed off that my dream wasn't real. I was like punching my pillow. I was like, no, I want to be a Power Ranger.
That is so funny because mine was the same basically, except it was that NSYNC came to my door and asked me to be part of NSYNC.
Love that. I love that.
So a little different.
Do you have any siblings or no?
Yeah, I have 2 younger siblings.
Okay. Are they boys or girls?
One boy, one girl.
Okay. Were you similar or different than your brother and sister?
Oh, I was so different. We're all 3 so different.
All so different.
My brother was, sports player, total, like ladies man in high school, and not like that way, but just like really just everyone loved him at the school, like
gotcha,
popular kid. And then I was like, I kept to myself.
You're like a little more introverted.
Yeah,
interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, my brother and I total opposites.
Really?
So like I played hockey, soccer, lacrosse. Like big. I love sports.
Really active.
Always playing sports. He was very, very big into theater and music and magic, actually. So none of our we had no interests at all that were common growing up. We were somewhat similar personality wise, but our interests were so polar opposite. It's wild to live in. I grew up with a Jewish mother, Catholic father, and my brother's gay and married. And so it was just fascinating to now look back on that and just see the way we grew up. And while we all had such different interests and came from, I guess, like different backgrounds, my parents came from different religions, there was such a mutual respect for like hearing one another out. And so, seeing my parents, like, they taught us both religions, and they said, like, you can, here's this and here's this. We celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas. Here's what you should know. This is why we celebrate these two. You can make it your way, however it's comfortable for you.
Wow.
And so my parents have been married for 37 years now, I think over 35 years. And it's just, there's so many takeaways that I think about, like, my childhood that I hope I can like bring to, Caitlin and I and our kids one day and stuff like that. So it was a special upbringing.
That's so special.
Very, very fortunate.
I've been hearing that a lot more recently too, with like newer, like newer parents is, just like you raise your kid obviously with your ideals in mind, but at the end of the day, you have to let them decide what they want for themselves.
You have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise that resentment builds. I just podcast with these these group of, they came from, it was three people. One was sick, of those two couples, and they grew up in this like cultish religion, and they broke out of it. So like they broke out of it. Now they live their own life, but they don't live under the principles of where they grew up. And a lot of people in that community like hate them and shun them for that.
Yeah.
But it was wild to hear about it. Like they couldn't literally touch each other until the wedding. Like I'm not talking intimacy, I'm saying touch.
Like if you run
They
into them.
yeah,
Like,
the one guy told me at the end, he was saying, and I was a guest on his podcast. So as I'm learning this, I'm like, wow, I gotta have them on my podcast.
yeah,
But
like that's
one
so
of them,
interesting.
so the one guy got married. He said this way. He said, he goes, yeah, I wasn't in the same room. First year talking about high school and prom. Like, oh yeah, we couldn't dance with each other, right? But they don't even call it prom. It's called something else. And then he said, yeah, I wasn't in the same room with my wife alone until after the ceremony. And I was like, oh, like prom? Like, he's like, no, no, no,
My wedding.
my wedding. I wasn't in the same room with my wife alone until after my wedding. I was like, oh my gosh.
It's a lot more common than you think.
Yeah. And he was explaining that under the guidelines that he grew up, there was one way, only one way, and there was no other option. And anybody that didn't comply to that way was going to go to hell. And like,
It's so crazy too, just going through therapy, how much religious trauma people have. Because like
Oh, for
I've even explained
sure.
some of my experiences, with growing up with the religion I grew up with, which is a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And my therapist is like, you'd be surprised, because I'm like, I'm probably so alone in this. You probably never heard this before.
Yeah.
And he was like, nope, I've heard this many times. It's just,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild. I remember saying like, so when I went to therapy, one of my therapists was saying, she was saying, I've never in my life, because I've had a lot of clients, I've never in my life had a client who's trying to convince me of how great their life is and that they have no issues more than you.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, let's talk about that. And
Wow.
it was I'm
This
like,
is a big break.
shit.
That just means
It's
means you seek approval, which I'm the same way.
right. Seek
Yeah.
approval. I think it's seek approval. I
Or-
think it's people pleasing. I also think it's like extreme loyalty to, like, I don't ever want to say anything bad about my parents because I feel so
Same.
indebted to them.
Same.
But like the way she explained, she broke it down for me was like, if you've lived, you've experienced some sort of trauma, or you've
Mhm.
experienced some sort of something
Mhm.
that has an impact on the way you think. And we don't need to change the way you think. We just need you to be aware of that.
Wow.
Right. So you need, let's talk about you. I've seen hundreds of thousands of clients, whatever their number was. And you're literally one of the only people that's totally worked so hard to convince me that nothing's wrong. So let's just talk. Like maybe that's something you don't identify about yourself. So let's talk through it. And so I think that's a really, therapy is, everyone should go to therapy.
It's so good.
It's so healthy.
I just had a therapist on my podcast actually, and she was,
nice.
yeah, she was given. It's really hard because I think quarantine put a lot of people in a position where they reflected on themselves and reflected,
Sure.
maybe I'm not as okay as I thought I am, or maybe
Sure.
I'm convincing myself that I am. And most therapists have like wait lists now, which is just, at least what I've researched. But there's so many other resources out there too, to like find a therapist as well,
Totally.
or just like, just what therapy would look like. Because especially as men,
Yeah.
it's great that you go to therapy. I go to
Yeah.
therapy, but the amount of people that reach out to me, because I talk pretty openly about men's mental health on my socials, but
good.
90% of my following is women, which I'm sure is similar
Sure.
to you,
Yeah.
because being on the show,
Yeah. Same thing.
and they're like, how do I get my husband to go to therapy? How do I get my
Yeah.
boyfriend to go to therapy? And what the therapist said was, you just have to let them be open about themselves, because if you don't, then you're going to keep causing them to do the same thing where they're convincing themselves that they're okay because
Sure.
people want them to not be okay, or to showcase how they're not okay.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I think
which-
you're right. There's a lot of like masculinity issues
Oh.
with is a barrier to go to therapy, and that needs to be shattered, because the comment I have to all those people, or even my friends who I've totally convinced to go to therapy, is we talk all the time, my buddies and I. Did you run today? Did you work out today? What are you working out? What are your supplements are you using? What type are you fasting? All this bullshit, right? And so what does my bicep do for me? It does. What is my quad when I'm squatting? It doesn't do shit. The most important thing in our entire body is right between our
brain.
ears, our biggest, most important organ. It's the same thing. If I can work out 5 times a week, or I could run 10 miles, whatever it is that people do, why would once a month for an hour would I not go exercise my brain?
People are like, I have to do it every week. It's like, no, you don't.
No, you
Like,
don't. You can
I know people do it once a quarter.
Whatever. I think It's a lot too. For me, like when I also, the thing is when I do therapy, I love it, but it's also draining to me. So I take the whole, like the rest of the afternoon, I'm going to be probably sleeping because I get so into it.
Yeah.
So I do it once a month. I think is great. And then the other barrier I get is it's too expensive. I can't get a therapist. But now there are so many of these apps, internet apps and stuff for $25 for 15 minutes. You could just try it out.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of therapists now are doing consultations too.
Yeah.
Where they're like, it's just 15 minutes just to talk through what we would do. It's not like you're committing, you're not signing a contract.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. You talk a lot about finance. It's, you know, your podcast, you have a book. I wanted to, because there's this big thing on TikTok for millennials specifically, that we have created this community where we don't know a lot of things that we pretend to know.
Yes.
Like I, for some reason, on my resume, have that I'm proficient in Excel. And I have no idea how to create an equation on Excel.
I love it.
I just Googled. I wanted to do you explaining certain words, phrases to me that we hear a lot as adults that we pretend to know.
Okay.
Explain it to me like I'm 10 years old.
Okay.
Okay.
I love that.
The first one is going to be very relevant right now because I'm still just having a hard time. I think I understand what it is, but I'm like, why is NFT?
Okay. NFT. We'll do it like a 10-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So name a company you know.
Apple.
Okay. So you know Apple. So if I tell you what the value of this is, you get it, right? Because you can touch it, you could feel it, right? Now we're going to take one step a little further. Now imagine if you own apple.com. Like suppose you're one of the first people that bought that. Would you say it's pretty valuable?
Oh yeah.
Can you touch it?
No.
Can you feel it?
No.
Can you put it in a frame and put it on a wall?
Maybe you could print a page.
Maybe print it out. Yeah. But the idea is no, right? So that's a digital asset. So let's go over what it means. Like, so non-fungible token is what NFT means.
Yeah.
Fungible means mutually exchangeable. You buy me a drink, I buy a drink. Non-fungible, it's not mutually exchangeable. There's only one. So let's go a non-fungible asset, physical asset would be like the Eiffel Tower. One of them.
Yeah.
It's in Paris. It's non-fungible.
Unique pieces of art.
Right there,
Picasso.
unique. Yeah. Picasso.
Sure.
Digital art is the same thing, kind of like apple.com. You can't touch it. You can't feel it. But there is a unique value to it based on either demand of what it is, or there could be utility behind it. And so you can buy this and no one can replicate it. So when you have like a Wayne Gretzky 99 rookie card signed, there's only one and there's going to be a number. It'll say 391 of 500. When it's on the blockchain, it has a unique identification that cannot be replicated and cannot be changed, just like the Eiffel Tower.
Like a Beanie Baby.
Yes. So it's it's non-fungible like the Eiffel Tower, but it's not physical. You can't touch it. It's a digital asset, like an apple.com is a digital asset.
Wow.
And so that's an NFT.
So my question is,
yes,
why is it more of a flex than when I see on Twitter people having a monkey profile picture that's an NFT? Is it just because like I bought this and no one else can have it? Is that
one of the big things with NFTs is community.
Oh, okay.
Right. So they want to showcase that they're part of the community. When it's a Bored Ape, like what you're referring to.
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
So what happens is the community then becomes in charge of creating artificial demand is for what the asset is. So when all the people in the community are putting up their NFT, they're creating hype and demand. You want it. When you want the NFT, the price, what's called the floor price, goes up.
Would that be inflation?
No, think about the floor price. It's like, imagine you live in a neighborhood, okay? And the neighborhood is all the Bored Ape Club. So everyone there, you're all part of the same community. The lowest price of a home in that neighborhood selling is the floor price. So the floor price is the lowest price good in that community. So the floor price of a Bored Ape is the cheapest one you can get on the market. That's the floor price. The idea is you want that floor price to be up. You want it to be really high. So there are some floor prices where you could spend $20 and you can buy an NFT in that community. Or Bored Ape Project, I think the minimum, if you want to buy the cheapest, smallest floor price in the Bored Ape Project right now, it's probably around like 300 grand.
Oh my God.
So the goal of the community is keep moving that up. Now there's some that go for millions in that community.
Yeah.
So the community is constantly trying to increase demand. So that's why they showcase and flex. We own it. We're part of it. Are you?
Wow. That's Definitely learned something new with that one.
The big thing with NFTs I want to say about is the utility behind them. So like when Gary V, you buy his NFT, no one cares about the art. The fact is that NFT gets you into the membership, into his restaurant, into his club. So there's only a limited amount of supply of those. So then the demand to get them becomes more and more and more and more.
We live in an exclusive world. Like I'm a Soho House member because I need somewhere to work, right? So but there's also an exclusivity that goes along with it, or
totally
Equinox, and there's even dating apps, Raya, where you have to have like 3 recommendations, right?
Yep.
So I think that definitely is something that this generation craves, is a little bit of exclusivity.
100%.
Interesting. Okay, another one. Escrow.
Okay. That's a good one. Let's think about escrow like, let's do it the 10-year-old example. Dad says he doesn't. So you work for a chore, you make your bed for $5, right? But dad doesn't want you to spend it all in one place. And dad doesn't want you to have ownership of that $5 right then. So he's going to say, son, go do your $5, and we're going to have mom hold on to it until 3 months from now. And then mom's going to release it to you.
Got it.
So escrow is going to be an area that will be a third party that's going to hold on to your $5 before we release it to you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense now. This is how I need people explain things, because Tinks just bought a house. I don't know if you follow Tinks.
Yeah.
But she made a TikTok. It's like, when my realtor brokers started talking about escrow, and then she just like zoned out, because it's like,
no.
It's just like, if you need it, whatever. That's why you hire people, I guess. To,
it's
take care of it for you. But
it's mom. It's a third party administrator that that doesn't have really a say other to follow the rules, and releases the money when it makes sense.
Interesting.
So it's mom in this example saying, okay, dad said you could have it in 3 months, and so I'll make sure I fill that contract for dad, and you did your chores. I'm going to make sure it's done. Okay, it's done. Now I'm going to fulfill the contract, and just in 3 months you're going to get the $5, and that's when I'll disperse it.
Wow. So it's helpful when buying a house. Yeah, 'cause you have the money to use.
Yeah. You need a third party for disperse.
Okay, another one. Cryptocurrency.
Okay.
It's kind of an older one. I should understand it by now. But
this is an older one, but the same thing is, you have a US dollar, and cryptocurrency is just a currency. So a US dollar is a currency, a Canadian dollar is a currency, yen is a currency, the euro, these are all currencies. So under the world of cryptocurrency, they're digital currency. You have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Dogecoin, Cardano, the things I just listed there. It's the same thing as like a US dollar or Canadian dollar or euro under the digital world of currencies. So when people say cryptocurrency, they say, oh yeah, Bitcoin is cryptocurrency. No, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency under cryptocurrencies. And so is Ethereum, and so is Solana, right?
So cryptocurrency, so we have our currency.
Yes.
And then cryptocurrency it's like 2 different divisions. It's not like cryptocurrency isn't under currency.
Cryptocurrency is a currency, and under that,
I've never said currency so much in my life. Do you ever spell a word so much and then you're like, that's not how it's spelled? I'm like, I'm saying currency so much.
Under that currency is like Bitcoin, or I'm gonna bring it down to your 10-year-old, is like Bitcoin, Ethereum. Those are currencies under the crypto world. Okay. So think about when you're like a 5-year-old, right? So when you're a 5-year-old, what does a dollar mean to you? It doesn't mean anything to you.
No.
It's a currency, but it doesn't mean what is more valuable? Candy. So I'm going to use candy as a form of asset. I'm going to say, hey, Rod, like if you make your bed and do your homework for 6 days in a row, I'm going to let you're going to get candy. So candy's the currency. But candy doesn't define all the currencies. I would take you to the market, and then you could say, do you want Sour Patch? Do you want Kit Kat? Do you want Hershey's? Right? So Kit Kat and Hershey's and Sour Patch, those are all different forms of currency under candy. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, those are all forms of currency under cryptocurrency.
Okay. Got it.
So does that work?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. The value is derived from supply and demand. and you can use them for trade, and you can use Bitcoin and Ethereum to buy things.
Yeah,
you can buy
now with crypto.
Yep.
Which is, I think that was the point. I think also there was a little bit of the exclusivity, I think, too, with like, Elon Musk, being a big pioneer in crypto, right?
Well, he's bullish on crypto, but he's also extremely smart. So he knows that he is such a big name that he can move the market. So when he bought $1.5 billion of Bitcoin, well, what happens when he buys that? All of us start, oh my God, Allah about it. We got to buy it. We got to buy it. Price goes up. Well, when the price went up, what do you think he did? He took it and ran. He made all his profit.
Did you see him on SNL when he hosted
the Dogecoin?
Yeah, when he like basically made fun of it.
Yeah,
and then it was
skyrocketed.
Yeah,
but he knows exactly what he's doing.
Did you see that he just challenged Putin to a fight?
No,
an in-person fight.
Stop it!
Isn't that crazy?
No, he did not.
Oh, he did. Yep. Yeah, definitely. I think. Let's see. Let me just make sure I'm fact checking on that.
That is outrageous.
Hold on, this was like definitely something that I saw this morning. Like this guy, yeah, Musk challenges Putin to single combat over conflict.
Wow. So like old school, like where they go knives and shit, like
Mortal Kombat. What?
Or like gladiator
That's
style.
What I'm saying.
Could you imagine?
Oh, he's gonna monetize this.
Wow. Like he needs more damn money.
I love this. So I guess this is something though I did want to, because I feel like a lot of, at the end of the day, we can say we don't understand, but at the end of the day, it'll be part of our world, is what would be your advice for people who are looking to get into crypto or NFT that have never touched it before? Is there like specific routes you would take or resources? What would be your advice?
First piece of advice I would say is 30 days. Really watch every day the cryptocurrency it is. So suppose you want to buy Bitcoin, okay? Before you buy it, I want you to 30 days to go into, you can go into your stock trading app or wherever you can literally just go, you could Google price of Bitcoin. I want you every day to look at the price of Bitcoin.
Like a stock.
For 30 days. That's it. Yeah. It's just like stock. So you could start to see the movement. You could start to see the patterns. You start to, in your brain, pretend like, oh, I just bought one. What's happening? Whoa, I lost a lot of money. You can start to experience the emotions that might come from owning it. So that's step one.
Got it.
Step two is what I would do, especially if you're new to this, is I would take a small percentage of your portfolio or a small percentage that won't kill you. So if I said, Urad, how much could you afford to lose if you put it into Bitcoin? And you said to me, Jason, $5K. I'm going to give you $5,000. If I lose that, I'm good. I'll be okay. And I'm not going to start crying and worried about it. I'm okay. So I would take an amount that isn't going to make or break you and start slowly getting into it by what I would say is dollar cost averaging. So pick a time, pick a date. Don't try and time it and outbeat the pros, and buy just a little bit. Maybe it's $100 worth, maybe it's $200, maybe it's $1,000. And then at that time, whenever it is, pick another time frame from that. Maybe it's a week from that time, maybe it's 2 weeks from that time, maybe it's 3 weeks or a month from that time. And the same time, buy another little small piece. And so you'll have different entry points in this crazy volatile market. And if you want to know where you can buy Bitcoin, you can buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, on Binance, on Robinhood. You could buy these apps.
I've seen a Robinhood.
Start small though. And I think one of the cool things people are like, well, don't do all your research. If you put $100 or $50 or $150 or $200, and it's not going to kill you based on your financial profile, trying it and doing it will actually get you more mentally invested in the process and learning. There also is and this is, I don't have any type of like brand deal with them or anything, but I know it because I've done it. There's an app called FTX, and they were, when you downloaded it, giving you a free $100 in Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if that promo's there, but FTX, I saw the ad once and I did it, and I got 100 free bucks in Bitcoin. So check out all promos.
Yeah,
and you might be able to get some free Bitcoin, and it's a good way to start.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think I went to Vegas for the first time with my mom last month, and I don't know. I liked it. I have a very addictive personality, so that's why I try to be careful with things, like gambling and stuff, because I know I would be the kind of person that's like all of a sudden like 100K in the hole. But it's so interesting because slots, like I was playing the penny slots, and then it's so easy when you're putting little things in to like lose so much, or if you put a big number in, like I think I did like 500 on the tables, and I was like up, and then I lost it all. And it's just like I didn't lose it all, but I had a moment where I'm like, I should stop before I lose more.
It's emotional swings.
Yeah, exactly.
That concept you just said right there is the exact same concept people need to apply to their investing, though. They have to understand their risk tolerance.
True.
So you might go to the Vegas casino with 5 people, and 5 people will have all different risk tolerance, right? Like one person is going to be the person that's going to say, I'm not going to spend any money, but I'm going to let Jason spend all of his money, and I'm just going to get free drinks, and then I know I won. And then there's going to be someone who says, I'm going to put $1,000 on red. If I lose, I'm out. If I win, I double it. Your risk tolerance, you have to know before you invest, because you will make the investment decisions based on how risky your appetite is.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because the person at the slot machine next to me made $700.
Yeah.
And when I lost, 50, it's just
it's crazy. It's the high swings.
Yeah.
And they need that person with 700. So you see it and you keep going. Now, what's fascinating is the psychology behind the casino.
I know.
All the stuff like
I was reading ahead of time.
Isn't it the coolest thing? Like, so the way there's no clocks, they pump in oxygen into the casino. If you look at any carpet at the casino, it's the busiest, ugliest carpet you'll ever see, because they don't want you looking down. They want you always looking up and being stimulated by the things
so
happening.
Bright.
The colors, the noises in the slot machine are designed to be like ASMR stimulating. Like, it is the most. They'll put the place the cashier. You'll have to go through like a whole zigzag of different tables and areas before you can get there. I mean, it's crazy.
You have to walk by all the high roller tables before you can get to the one you want to go to.
Yeah, like so fascinating.
I thought it was fascinating that I'm like, most of the games in the casinos are computers. I'm like, they're computers. Like, they can literally like.
Your computers.
It's like they can have an algorithm.
That's why I don't play slots.
No, I'm like,
this is a computer designed to beat me.
I'm like, no.
Yeah, I mean, and card games and everything else is pretty much hedged against you. There's no way you're going to get an edge. But at least I'm like, well, I can make a decision. I have some input.
Yeah.
And if I say hit or don't hit, like, it will impact what card I get.
I was so mad that I started playing the tables at the end of the trip, because I'm like, I could have, probably made more money. But I did play one computer game that I walked away $50 on. Was the Britney Spears game.
Oh, see,
so
she's always giving back.
Always me.
She's always giving back.
All right, before we leave, Jason, I have this question I like to ask, and I don't know how in touch you are with trends. Well, were you in high school? Would you consider yourself? You said you played sports. Were you more preppy? Were you more emo?
I would say.
What was your MySpace profile like?
Yeah. I was more like definitely not emo, like energetic, preppy athlete.
Yeah, like Hollister.
Yeah, like Hollister, Abercrombie, Tommy Hilfiger.
Popped collar.
Yeah, popped collar. Well, I wasn't like fashion forward, so I would see if the guys were wearing pop collar and if it was perceived as cool, and then I might do it. But I was never the leader in a pop collar.
Trends were so important to us. It's just so crazy.
Yeah.
Trends are always relevant. But what is one trend you've seen come back that you're just like, I can't believe this is back in our world? Because I'm not sure if you've seen, but like Y2K fashion is like the fashion right now.
The fashion. Yeah. So this isn't.
I'm not sure if Caitlin is biting into the trend.
Oh, totally. Yeah. This isn't a fashion one. I will think of a fashion one, but this is
any trend.
This is a trend that I can't believe that's come back with a vengeance. Is I remember in like 5th, 6th grade, I used to really enjoy playing the game Pokemon cards.
Oh, I know.
Right? But people, like, it wasn't like that cool to play at that age. Like, oh, you still play Pokemon? But so I would still play, and I had like a certain like secret group of friends, and we would play together and collect them. And I used to take really meticulous, good care of them. And my parents kept them. And so just at Christmas, they showed me all of them. And now I'm a 33-year-old, like typing in what my Pokemon values are, what I got. The other day I went to Walgreens, and every time I go to Walgreens to pick up like a prescription or whatever I'm picking up, I always will look at the Pokemon. It's always empty. You can never get cards. The other day I walked by and there are 2 packs. I'm 33 years old. I grabbed them. I bought them. So like Pokemon cards is a crazy one.
You think about it, in the Pokemon world, Pokemon are like NFTs. No, they're real.
Well, Pokemon it's physical asset, but no, it is. It's like it's like there are unique identities to some of them. Which, like, if it's a first edition Charizard 3 of 12, there's only one of those.
Like Meowth could talk.
Yes.
Great. And
What's
then
another trend.
Yeah.
What do you have? One?
I think I was just saying it. Like, I just can't believe how full force being emo is, like Machine Gun Kelly.
My God.
Like
nail
polish and all of that. It's just like, it's so normal.
It's like the cool thing.
Yeah. It's so normal, which I think is so fascinating. I think that's a big trend. One trend that I'm like, if I ever saw come back, I think I would absolutely like lose it would
What's
be
that?
leather flip-flops.
Oh
Hold
my
that head on us men
God.
was
I
just like,
remember the
oh,
leather
I would
flip-flops.
I would have to go and buy a new pair of American Eagle every 2 months because they smelled so
bad.
bad. So bad.
Wait, what about what do you feel? What's your take on this? The baggy being like totally back in.
I'm kind of into it. I had an issue. Yeah, I think for
Okay.
me it's just because I used to sell custom suits, so like I know like how to fit things,
Okay.
but like I have big thighs, so like baggy stuff doesn't look that good on me because it's like I have to buy baggier to fit my thighs.
Yeah.
So it's just like super wide leg, but it's starting to grow on me.
I'm down with baggy. Like I'll wear a hoodie, I'll wear a loose.
Yeah.
But the pants, I don't want. Like I used to like dream of my Jinkos.
Yeah,
like
and then they would get so torn up at the bottom.
Yeah, they were literally like
Yeah.
the most. It was like garbage freaking.
Yeah.
I mean, bags on my pants.
Yeah.
I can't do. I don't think I can get down with that.
No.
Though.
Yeah.
What about the sneaker? Are you in the sneaker trend?
I'm not like I'm not a sneakerhead, but I do like I like a good shoe.
I'm like just getting into sneakers now.
Yeah. I mean, I won't do like drops or any of that, but I definitely do keep an eye out. I think I like just having like a good white sneaker that I'll always wear. I always have a pair of Converse that are clean, and then I'll have, some more trendy stuff. Yeah. Wow, well, this was a great conversation. Yeah.
The trend one. Now I'm gonna be thinking the new. Remember when we all used to? How old are you?
31.
Okay, it's 33.
Oh, great.
I remember like the ice tips for when you would dye your hair.
Yes.
So that's coming like back. So like one of the
yeah.
big golfers, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. He just dyed his hair like that. Like that's coming
Like
back.
tips or like full dye?
Well, now it's like a mix of both, but I think it's like the full dye.
That's what this was. I was trying to get like a more light blue, but then Haley Williams has a hair dye brand, and she sent this hair dye. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll try it.
You like it?
No, I hate it. But like,
really?
But I buzz my hair all the time anyway, so
I
I'll give it a couple weeks. And see what happens. Cool. Well, if there's any trends we missed, you guys can comment below. It'd be great to hear what you guys think's coming back, not coming back, or any questions for Jason. I'm sure we'll have you on again.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
congrats.
Great conversation. Thank you.
So exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Congrats on your book.
I'm gonna send you a copy.
Please. No, I love it.
I feel like you would resonate with it.
And yes,
rewire, reset your career, restart yourself. Like, think about your path.
Exactly. Right? I think it's just the past year is just reset everything. It's just you're never too old. I feel like to reset, just in any part of your life, but with your career, because that's one thing, especially being in sales. I was in sales for 10 years. I'm like, I'm never going to go out of sales, but now I'm in a marketing role because of what I was doing. But it's insane.
And anyone you look up to, guys out there.
Yeah.
Anyone that's achieved outlying success has done it by breaking the blueprint, is what I was saying. Doing things differently, taking detours, trying new things, failing 1,000 times over to find out what their natural skill set and learned abilities are. Like, go find that. You got one life. And on average, we live until, I know this is like a morbid thing, but on average, we live till 70, it's like 78, 79 years.
Yeah.
You take out 18 years of that for becoming an adult, you got 60 years on average. That's it.
Yep.
My dog growing up, when I grew up, my dog lived till like 19 or 20.
Yeah.
That's like 3 of my dogs. Like, that's what we got.
That's crazy.
Go do what you want to do. Make an impact greater than the 60 years after adulthood that
There's
we have.
been even some more personal parts of my life where I've thought that recently. Like, I have 30 years left.
I know it's like morbid and tough, but it can motivate you to be like, I need to start controlling this time.
An asteroid could hit us at any point. You know? Hopefully not. sorry to put fear in you. So Jason, where can people find you?
Yeah, so all my socials, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, Twitter, it's Jason_Tartick.
Easy.
And then the restart one we talked about, it's restart_reset. And then Trading Secrets is the podcast.
Trading Secrets is the podcast, great. And then the book is
The Restart Roadmap, and you could pre-order it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and I'm telling you, there's at least one takeaway for anyone that's having any bit of career confusion. It's worth the $22 or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely plug that because I get so many questions about that. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into Millennial Made. Comment below, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.